Okay, hello. Uh, anything anything you want to talk about or discuss, ask from last week's session? It's been a long time. Are you muted?
No, I said no.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Anything from then? One sec. Okay, so we can just dive into it then. We're approaching the end of this section on realization or experience and truth.
यदि मूल्यांकन होता अब तक वो संविधान हो जाता और वो
Right. So this, he was talking about how there is no evidence of there having been a tradition of realization and um, a coexistence in the past, because had it existed, it would have become part of our traditions, and we would have had access to them. And in fact, over all these years, when someone is living this way, it would have become cemented in the form of a constitution, which we don't find.
परंपरा में होता, अभी ऐसा कुछ हुआ नहीं। इसीलिए अपने को तुलन में से जो तीन प्रीहित लाभात्मक तुलन को न्याय धर्म सत्य में विलय करने की आवश्यकता है, अर्थात न्यायपूर्वक प्रिय, न्यायपूर्ण प्रिय, न्यायपूर्ण हित, न्यायपूर्ण माने समृद्धि।
Right. So since we were talking about the activity of comparison on our way up the Jeevan, you're saying, therefore, since we don't find any evidence of that having happened earlier, what we need to now do is to subsume our perspectives of comparison into the perspectives, our current perspectives, into the perspective of justice, order, and truth. So what that means is then we will have just preferences, just health, and just prosperity. So going from just simply what do you call it, preferences, health, and profit as our criteria for comparison, we can also subsume these into a higher set of criteria, which is justice, order, and truth. So what subsuming involves is that then our preferences aren't just abstract random preferences. Our preferences too will be regulated and guided by what is just, what it would be imbued with justice. Similarly, our decisions for our health will also be imbued with justice. Similarly, our decisions for material well-being, which is now prosperity rather than profit, will also be imbued with justice.
इसका लाभ के स्थान पर समृद्धि आ जाती है।
So we get prosperity in place of profit.
न्यायपूर्वक हम वस्तु को यदि हम उत्पादन करते हैं, हम समृद्धि के मंजिल में पहुंचते हैं, और संग्रह विधि से हम शोषण के मंजिल में पहुंचते हैं।
When we produce objects in a just manner, then we reach this destination of prosperity. Whereas when we produce objects in a from the by way of accumulation or for accumulation, then the destination we arrive at is only exploitation. We are done this.
हम स्वयं भी क्षतिग्रस्त होते हैं और संसार को भी क्षतिग्रस्त करते हैं।
We damage both ourselves as well as the rest of the world.
ये कुल मिलाकर के जीवन का वैभव हुआ। ये वैभव हर मनुष्य में अपने आप में समाहित है और उसको सटीक अध्ययन पूर्वक स्वीकारने की आवश्यकता है। स्वीकारने के पश्चात उस पर अपना संकल्प दृढ़ता को।
So overall, this is the all of these activities that were listed out. These are the this is the grandeur of the Jeevan. This is the expression of the Jeevan. and this can be studied, and this exists in each human being. It can be studied and
समाहित है और उसको सटीक अध्ययन पूर्वक स्वीकारने की आवश्यकता है। स्वीकार
So there is a need to study it in a very exact manner and then accept it as such. So it has to be done in a precise manner, not vaguely.
करने के पश्चात उस पर अपना संकल्प दृढ़ता को स्थापित कर लेने की आवश्यकता है।
And upon accepting it, after studying it, we then need to establish our resolve, our determination in accordance with the nature of the Jeevan.
इस क्रम में हमको चलना है।
This is the progression in which we must work.
इसी के लिए मानवीय शिक्षा की आवश्यकता बनती है।
And it is for this course of action that we require humane education.
मानवीय शिक्षा के बारे में भी कहा गया, हम विज्ञान के साथ चैतन्य पक्ष को समाहित करेंगे और मनोविज्ञान के साथ संस्कार को समाहित करेंगे।
And regarding humane education, I have already said that we will include the conscious aspect along with science. We will include the aspect of sanskar or values, sanskars like deeply rooted values, along with psychology.
और दर्शन शास्त्र के साथ क्रिया पक्ष को समाहित करेंगे।
And along with philosophy, we will include the aspect of living. Kriya Paksha is the active aspect. So the actual aspect of living, evidencing of the philosophy. That has to be supplemented along with philosophy that is taught today.
तो इसके साथ समाज शास्त्र के साथ मानवीयता का समावेश करेंगे।
With sociology, we will include humaneness.
इतिहास के साथ हम मानव तथा मानवीयता का समावेश करेंगे।
Similarly, with history, we will include humaneness again.
ये पूरा पढ़ाई का जो यंत्र है, जितने भी हम अभी मान लिए हैं, उसी में ये सब समाहित होने पर मानवीयता का सूत्र अपने आप से निष्पन्न होगी। हर बच्चे अपने में स्वायत्त होगा।
So this entirety of humane education, sorry, let me just listen to this.
भी हम अभी मान लिए हैं, पूरा पढ़ाई हम मानव तथा मानवीयता का समावेश करेंगे। ये पूरा पढ़ाई का जो यंत्र है, जितने भी हम अभी मान लिए हैं, उसी में ये सब समाहित होने पर मानवीयता का सूत्र अपने आप से निष्पन्न।
So this entirety of the apparatus of education that we have accepted as of today already, when we include these aspects into the existing framework, this existing apparatus, then the principle of humaneness automatically flows from it.
बंद होगी। हर बच्चे अपने में स्वायत्त होगा, अर्थात 6 सद्गुणों से संपन्न होगा।
So the principle of humaneness will automatically emerge. Each child will become autonomous, and that means that they will be endowed with the 6 virtues that were listed under what it means to be autonomous.
वो है स्वयं में विश्वास, श्रेष्ठता का सम्मान, प्रतिभा और व्यक्तित्व में संतुलन,
which is confidence in oneself, respect for greatness, balance between talent and personality,
व्यवहार में सामाजिक, व्यवसाय में स्वावलंबन,
sociable in one's behavior, and self-reliant in one's occupation.
ये 6 सद्गुण हर व्यक्ति में समाना है, हर विद्यार्थी में समाना है, वो इससे प्रमाणित हो जाती है।
So these 6 virtues being established in individuals, in students, that is sufficient. It gets accomplished through such an education system.
फलस्वरूप ऐसे स्वायत्त मानव परिवार अपने आप में समाधान समृद्धि को प्रमाणित करेगा। फलस्वरूप समाज सूत्र अपने आप से
Consequently, such a family made up of such autonomous human beings will be able to evidence resolution and prosperity within the family, and therefore be able to participate or therefore be able to lead or live them with the principle of sociability. So when the family is complete, then the family can participate in the social, rather than, thinking that we can skip that step of family somehow.
निष्पन्न होती है और व्यवस्था सूत्र भी निष्पन्न होती है। सूत्र अपने आप से
So it is from such a family that the principle of order, social order, automatically emerges, and the what?
समृद्धि को प्रमाणित करेगा। फलस्वरूप समाज सूत्र अपने आप से निष्पन्न होती है और व्यवस्था सूत्र भी निष्पन्न होती है।
That the principle of sociality naturally automatically emerges, and the principle of orderliness naturally automatically emerges from such a family.
दोनों का स्थली है वो परिवार।
So the platform, the place where this emerges from for both of these is the family. This is a very significant point.
व्यवस्था और समाज का जो उद्गम बिंदु है ये परिवार में ही होता है।
Which is that the point of origin for both order as well as sociality is both lies within the family. The origin of sociality as well as order lies within the family. You cannot be a social individual. You are a social family or orderly individual. It will be an orderly family.
इसको भले प्रकार से मैंने देखा है, यह सार्थक होता है।
This is something that I have seen very thoroughly for myself, and this becomes successful, this becomes meaningful, as in this becomes achievable.
इसके बाद आता है तो सारा व्यवस्था का स्वरूप। व्यवस्था में कोई खास मुद्दा नहीं है।
So after this emerges the form, the manifestation of order. Now there is no issue in this.
यह सार्थक होता है। इसके बाद आता है तो सारा व्यवस्था का स्वरूप। व्यवस्था में कोई खास मुद्दा नहीं है, खास समझदारी को विकसित करने की नहीं है।
So there is no great issue in social orderliness. There is no great issue of evolving our understanding for greater social participation.
समझदारी के बाद व्यवस्था अपने आप से उद्गमित होता ही है, बहता ही है।
Upon understanding, orderliness automatically emerges, it automatically flows.
उस व्यवस्था में क्या है भाई? व्यवस्था में कुल मिलाकर के हम शिक्षा संस्कार में भागीदार करना है।
What is there in orderliness after all? So orderliness just means that we will participate in the education inculcation program.
एक व्यवस्था में भागीदारी है। तो ये तो आप हमारा देखी ताकि समझी हुई पची हुई बातें हैं। हर माँ बाप हर अभिभावक अपने बच्चों को कुछ सिखाते ही हैं।
This is something that all of us have seen, observed, checked and verified and digested for ourselves. Every parent, every guardian does participate in educating their child, in explaining things to their child, in helping them understand.
इसका नाम है शिक्षा संस्कार।
And that itself is given the name of education and inculcation.
उसके बाद शिक्षण संस्था में कुछ सिखाते हैं, वो भी शिक्षा संस्कार ही है।
Now after that also there is something that is taught in educational institutes, that is also education and inculcation.
कुछ धर्म गद्दी में कुछ सिखाते हैं, ये भी शिक्षा संस्कार ही है।
And whatever they teach under seats of religion, that also is part of education and inculcation.
उसके बाद राजगद्दी कुछ अपने ढंग से कुछ सिखाता है, वो भी शिक्षा संस्कार है.
Then again, the seats of political power also teach something in their own ways. That too is part of education and inculcation.
ये तो इसमें कहाँ छुपा हुआ है बताइए. सब अपन तो बिल्कुल जैसा कि मट्टी जैसा बिछा है वैसे तो अपन भी तो बिछे हैं.
So what really even is hidden in all of this? All of this is exposed, just like I can't, such a funny metaphor. Just like the soil is laid bare in front of us, similarly, we are also laid bare as and exposed in this way.
यही तो शिक्षा संस्कार का स्थलियां हैं.
These themselves are the platforms for education and inculcation. It's clear as day, basically, he's saying.
इन स्थलियों में से हमको जो अभी शिक्षा मिल रही है, इससे हम मानव बन नहीं पा रहे हैं.
And from these platforms, the education that we receive today is not resulting in our becoming humane. So all of these, he's saying, all of these platforms, whether it's the home, whether it's educational institutes, whether it's seats of religion or seats of political power, everyone is teaching other people what should happen, what needs to happen, how to go about doing something or the other. All of that is together part of education and inculcation. And yet all of that together is leading to a failure in our becoming humane today. But when we think of education and inculcation as a process, we need to account for all of these sources.
अब विचार इतने ही है, प्रयत्न इतने ही है, प्रमाण इतने की है, हम मानव बन सके.
So all of this is already happening. Now the only thought, the only attempt, and the only evidence is so that we can now become humane. We can become humans. So he's saying all these institutions and platforms of education and inculcation already exist. All that we want to do is that they should lead to us becoming humane.
मानव परंपरा बन सके.
And that it should lead to the formation of a humane tradition.
इससे क्या फायदा हो जाए भाई? फायदा इतना ही है, नैसर्गिकता का संतुलन और मानव में न्याय.
And what would be the advantage of achieving this? Well, the only advantage would be environmental balance and justice in humankind.
मानव न्यायपूर्वक जीता है तो व्यवस्था में जीता ही है. अब कौन सा बड़ी भारी दुर्घट काम है?
And when humans live with justice, they automatically live in orderliness. So what great difficulty is this after all? It isn't.
किंतु मानव को इसकी आवश्यकता महसूस होने की जरूरत है. जो आवश्यकताएं अभी तक हम जो कुछ भी किए हैं संवेदनाओं के आधार पर ही किए हैं.
However, humans need to feel the need for this. All that we have done up till now has been based on feeling sensations. Physical sensations.
जो आवश्यकताएं अभी तक हम जो
all the needs that we have felt up till now have been based on senses, our sensations.
जो कुछ भी किए हैं संवेदनाओं के आधार पर ही किए हैं, वो आवश्यकताएं कभी पूरा होने वाला नहीं है.
And such needs will never be fulfilled.
इसी क्रम में धरती बर्बाद हो गई, आदमी तो बर्बाद है ही.
And it has been in this course of fulfilling needs being identified on the basis of our physical senses that we have destroyed this planet, and human beings are also on the verge of destruction.
होने वाला नहीं है. इसी क्रम में धरती बर्बाद हो गई, आदमी तो बर्बाद है ही.
And humans, not on the verge of destruction. Humans are already sort of destroyed or damaged, defunct.
अब इससे ज्यादा कुछ सोचने की जरूरत नहीं है. इसीलिए यदि आबाद होना है, मानवता को पहचानना ही होगा.
So now there is no need to think beyond this. If we want to survive and flourish, then
इसीलिए यदि आबाद होना है, मानवीयता को पहचानना ही होगा।
If we want to thrive and flourish, we will have to identify, we will have to recognize humaneness.
मानवीयता पूर्ण व्यवस्था में जीना ही होगा, उसकी निरंतरता की संभावना है।
We will have to recognize humaneness. We will have to live in a humane system, and there is a possibility for that.
उसमें भी ये अभी जहां तक हम क्षतिग्रस्त किए हैं धरती को, वो पुनः अपने को पाट पाता है नहीं पाट पाता है, उसके बारे में पहले अपन विचार कर चुके हैं।
And even within that, all that we have damaged the earth, whether the earth will be able to recover from that or not is something again that we have already discussed earlier. So you're saying, A, we have to become humane and live with justice as human beings. But beyond that also, we have already caused so much damage. Even if we were to start living in that way, we will still have to see and think and check out whether the earth will be able to recover from the damage we've already inflicted upon it.
एक बार सारा अपराध कृत्य को धरती के साथ नैसर्गिकता के साथ जितना अपराध कर रहा है आदमी जात, वो एक बार रुक जाए, उसके बाद उसको परीक्षण किया जा सकता है।
Once we stop all the crimes that we are committing against the planet, against the environment, in all the different ways, only when we have stopped these crimes can we actually go around and examine and test out whether this earth can recover or not.
अभी कौन सा परीक्षण करेंगे? ये बात सही है, रुकने की जगह है।
What sort of examination will we do today? It is true that there is scope for stopping.
ये आपको ध्यान दिलाना चाहा, वो शायद है आपको समझ में आया।
So we can only do a correct evaluation, examination, testing out after having stopped all our crimes against the planet. What sort of testing of the capacity of the earth to recover can we do today when we haven't yet stopped? Although it is true that there is scope for stopping even today. And that is what I had wanted to draw your attention to, and that is what we discussed.
ये आपको ध्यान दिलाना चाहा, वो शायद है आपको समझ में आया।
And perhaps you have been able to understand that.
अब व्यवस्था का स्वरूप इतना ही है। पहला मुद्दा है शिक्षा संस्कार में भागीदारी। अब मानवीय शिक्षा संस्कार में भागीदारी, न्याय सुरक्षा में भागीदारी, उत्पादन कार्य में भागीदारी और विनिमय कोष कार्य में भागीदारी और स्वास्थ्य संयम कार्य में भागीदारी।
So now the manifestation of orderliness is nothing but participation in education and inculcation, participation in protection of justice, participation in production work, participation in the Vinimay Kosh is like trade unions as such. I mean, something like that. Basically, where trade and exchange happens, and participation in health and moderation. The balance of health, basically.
इन पांचों आयामों में हम भागीदारी करना ही व्यवस्था में भागीदारी का मतलब है।
Participating in all 5 of these dimensions itself is participating in orderliness, or participating in the larger system.
इसमें से कोई ना कोई एक में करेगा, 2 में करेगा, 4 में करेगा, कोई 5 में करेगा।
Out of these, someone may participate in just 1, in just 2, or in just 3, and some might participate in all 5.
इसमें क्या आपत्ति हुई? किंतु भागीदारी इन्हीं में होगी।
So what's the problem in that? However, the participation will only be in one of these. It will be among these itself. There is no orderly living outside of these 5 dimensions.
इस ढंग से व्यवस्था की बात आती है। ये जागृति के उपरांत, मनुष्य समझदार होने के उपरांत ऐसी व्यवस्था हर व्यक्ति से ही उगती है।
So in this way, we arrive at awakening, and this emerges from each individual upon awakening. Such an orderliness emerges from each individual after awakening.
हर व्यक्ति से ही उद्गमित होती है, हर व्यक्ति में ये प्रमाणित होता है सहज रूप में।
it emerges from each individual, it is gets evidenced in each individual in a very natural manner. Nothing has to, no extra effort needs to be put after awakening. It becomes a natural process, natural course of action that after awakening you want to participate. You resolve to participate in this way.
ये आपको ये व्यवस्था का सार संक्षेप एक बार समझाने की कोशिश की.
So this is the summary or essence of orderliness or system that I tried to explain to you in very brief. Okay. So this next section is Q&A, questions and answers. Some sort of conversation will happen. Before we progress beyond onto this, anything that you would like to say or ask or think aloud? No?
What was the 5 things? Production, health, education, exchange with people or exchange union?
And justice. And
Protection of justice.
these 5 exist at all levels of order, including in the family. If you will see, even within the family, we participate in all of these.
Right.
Then in a group of families also, we will need to do all of these, ensure all of these. Then the larger and the larger, all up till the international level, all 5 of these exist. Actually, we forget that the family is also participating in this, also has all of these roles to play in, and that it is the basic social unit and playing these roles. Like even justice, in the sense of protection of justice, that is, is everyone's concerns being addressed? Are the values being ensured? Is everyone feeling fulfilled and motivated towards growth, which is only possible when values are met? That first and foremost happens at the level of the family. Again, production also, every day we are producing food, meals, and all that. Production also first and foremost happens at the level of the family. Health, nutrition, first and foremost happens at the level of the family. Exchange also, first and foremost, because if you're producing, if you're producing more than required, which you can once you are in an orderly system, then you naturally want to exchange and share with other people. But those decisions also have to be taken as a group, as a unit, a social unit. So that also happens first and foremost at the level of the family, what you want to share with others. And of course, education begins in the family. So since all 5 of these elements of social order begin in the social unit of the family, therefore, the starting point of all policy also starts at the family, whether it is a political policy or a moral policy, which is what we were discussing. Manjuji, you'll recall in yesterday's session, Manav Vyavahar Darshan. So that is the starting point of all policy as well.
Yes,
Right.
I recall.
I guess, yeah, that's why you said you can't skip the family part and move on to the community part.
Yeah. Because if you've never done it in the family, we don't know what all to take care of at the level of community. Right? It's like if we have not cooked for 4 people in the family in a way that addresses their needs, in the sense of every individual has slightly different physical makeups and so slightly different requirements. It's only when you're cooking for them on a regular basis that you know what all needs to be taken care of and at what intervals, changes in the season, changes in variety, nutrients, all of that. Unless you've done it at the level of family, you can't do it actually at the scale larger than that. You will cook something and people will, their tummies will be filled. They won't be hungry maybe, but you will not be able to take care of their actual needs that get taken care of within the family. That is why, messes are never, like mess systems, they're never as satisfactory as home cooked meals, because there all aspects of nutrition is taken care of. All aspects of production is also taken care of. The care that we take in, choosing our ingredients and fuel and waste and all of that is much taken care of in much greater detail within the family. Right now, the messes skip that step. When that step is not skipped, then you're basically just expanding on that understanding and increasing the scale of that same activity that you were doing at the level of family. So then you're able to do well at it.
Right. It's also interesting to look at this, just to understand that everyone is playing a part, and they are mostly 4 or 5 activities have been taken care of by them every single minute. That in itself gives that gratitude. Okay, so where is my participation, and where am I supposed to participate more?
Right. Yeah. That's a really big thing, actually. In fact, that very sense, which we, as adults living in the modern world, this is not something that we are educated in as really, but that is the crux of the education, the curriculum that Baba wrote for students from class 1 to 5. It is to develop this sense of the fact that this family is a system and what all is actually going on within the family to keep it running, that you are already a part of, you're already part of it. Just drawing your attention to what all is happening, what all is each member contributing towards. And when you do that much, the child automatically feels this need and sense of wanting to contribute as well based on gratitude. So that's a very important observation. Yeah. Often we feel like, what is happening in the family? Nothing. You just spend time there. We just chit chat and hang out. That's all we do. Otherwise, actual work is all happening outside. But a lot happens.
Yeah, and there's always excuses. Just a small, weird little excuse. My mom doesn't let me enter into the kitchen. That's a very big excuse. Ki, ये तो मम्मी का department, I can't contribute. But understanding the entire system, okay, if not for service, you can always contribute on the production, bringing those commodities home, whatever little things. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, right now, because so many parts of our living are dysfunctional, therefore we've all come up with our different ways. Or, हमने कुछ ना कुछ, we fixed some sort of rules that keep our life as easy as possible. So, if someone who enters the kitchen who doesn't have so much expertise and they mess it up, my Taiji also says this, and I can understand where she's coming from, then there's just so much more work for her to later fix that. Although then she also has the whole burden of handling the kitchen alone, which is a major problem. Whereas if someone were to come in and she were slowly allow them to try it out, experience, learn, and improve, then she would also not have to take on that burden all on her own. So, yeah, but these are like compulsions that we have kind of fixed into our lives because so many aspects are dysfunctional right now.
Yeah, it's also somewhere there's no genuine efforts to actually learn and help the service. Otherwise, there's so much time when they are not there, and still practice it so that you can give them a surprise key. I can help.
True. Yeah. Until we recognize that as the basic ingredient for living humanely, we will never, it'll become like it'll be lower down in our priority order. Like it's obviously, you feel the desire, yeah, I also want to be able to do this. But because there are so many other things that you also want to be doing, that kind of remains lower on the priority order. So we don't end up doing it. But I like how here he's like putting it forefront. This is the thing to be done. Everything else is secondary. Living in justice and orderliness in the family is the main thing. For that, and that even our understanding is going to lead to that first, rather than some great grand mystical thing. It's going to be it's going to allow us to be able to live like this. That is our first evidence to be able to participate in a just manner in the family system. So it's the platform to also start our practice. Like, there are 3 processes for working towards our understanding. One is a practice of the literature. It's called Shastra Bhyas. Then practice of behavior and practice of work. So, because in these three, you slowly refine your understanding and what you are getting out of these words. If you're not trying to live it out, you will not know what the words are referring to as clearly. You have some understanding, but unless you're checking it out on the ground, it'll be some abstract, untethered understanding. Whereas if you keep trying it out in your living, you'll say, oh no, this is what I had missed. This was the gap, or this was the overestimation I had done. This was just talking about this much. I can see it when I live with my mother, with my sister, with my brother, or whatever.
Right. I guess also more the evidence is more the analysis can be
refined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was having a conversation with my parents yesterday. One of the key aspects they were pointing out again and again is they with the two sides they were trying to point out is one, how the only requirement for them is making sure their children can take care of their livelihood by themselves, which is a holistic livelihood, how they live, whom they live with, and all of that. Second is the understanding in the children that eventually own blood is some other people who will come reach out to them when in help. Either for them or for us, the first person to come is the people, the siblings or the parents. So that was very interesting to have a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this need for your child to be secure and settled in terms of their relationships and livelihood. I guess it boils down to these two needs only, right? Maintain relationships with your blood relations because they are important and they will keep you secure, and be self-reliant in your occupation. I mean, how we imagine that security of relationship and prosperity can be ensured is very varied in today's world. Some people think, oh, investing in stocks and all that is what will ensure that. So those parents who believe in that will encourage their children to do that, and parents who believe something else is important will encourage their children to do the other. But those differences I find are mostly at the level of how, at the level of what they mainly care, that the child should be prosperous and have good relationships, who take care of my child also.
Yeah. Also they are very, at least when you have these conversations and you have a decent understanding of while you're communicating, they understand that my thought processes, their thought processes are different. We can share it with you. Yours are different. You have to live out your way of how to conduct your life, how to go ahead with your own ways of managing your livelihood.
Yeah. That's really nice that conversation can happen so openly. It must mean that they also feel secure that you understand their concern. Even if you may disagree at some level, there is that sort of openness and understanding. And I'm sure vice versa also.
Yeah.
Otherwise, these conversations don't happen as much because, this disagreement often rocks the boat. If we have only disagreement and no real common ground, if we feel that there is no common ground, then people avoid such conversations usually.
Yeah, also, and sometimes it's also suppressed in a sense. You have these conversations, you come from a place where, okay, there's fair understanding for us to be having these conversations, but that emotion sometimes comes later out in the picture.
Yeah.
Sometimes half an hour later. What you want to express, they want, when we say livelihood, my thought process would be creating my own setup. Close by, but having this own setup for my new place to begin with. I want that responsibility to handle my own place. Right. An existing setup is created where I'm not able to contribute that much. I tried, for example, a thought. Their thought might be they would adjust with it, compromise with it, for let the child start on their own. Their patterns of their understanding, but living together, living in the closed circuit of life is also difficult for them to address again and again, because again, the society will ask, their own family members will keep on asking, why is he living? So these thoughts in itself, then they suppress it because they can't share it directly with you.
If they
So-
feel that they will not be heard or taken with as much sensitivity as they would like it to be taken, then then it gets suppressed.
It's also, there's this way when you reach out to your people whom you care for, when you want to share something, there's also this thought of them doing something about it. You can understand, but at the same time they need some action for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So well, these are the kind of things that we are supposed to practice our understanding on. How to deal with such dynamics, actually.
Yeah. When it all boils down to, again, a lot of friends we have been discussing around this subject, and this comes down to what kind of education we have been missing for such a long time. And when we are supposed to settle down and build our careers, this is where we are starting from ground zero and trying to figure out where to focus on actually.
Yeah. That's the problem. You have to start thinking about everything from scratch when you actually have to get down.
I can't go pursue a career, dude, just because I can't see where I should step on getting my livelihood from. It can't be a business. It can't be a startup, because again, the butterfly effects on where it is going down towards filters out so many options when you have to think about just. But again, small and slow solutions is the only way out.
Yeah. And keeping in mind your history, expertise, background, your conducive environment, all of those things also. And like Baba said, I don't know if he said it in these actually. When you're trying to move out of a bog, a swamp, your first step will still be in the mud only. And slowly you will build out of it. Even people, he was saying that it will be the people who are polluting the earth, like the coal mining industry, the petrochemical industry, they will be the ones who will have to take the onus of changing from that to clean energy. So even if you're, basically participating in the most polluting industry, there is scope for improvement over there. So you can
Right.
start out in any and then figure out ways to how, improve it and make it more just and more sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's see what conversation happens here.
इस जो दस्तावेज का स्वरूप वीडियो कैसेट के रूप में अभी जो यहाँ संपन्न की है, उसमें जीवन विद्या से संबंधित जितने भी मुद्दे हैं उसको आप तक पहुंचाने के लिए मैंने प्रस्तुत किया है.
So, this documentation that we have prepared to be shared in the form of a video cassette has been my attempt at trying to explain Jeevan Vidya or the knowledge of the Jeevan with all of you.
जीवन को जिस विधि से मैं समझा हूँ उसी विधि से आपको इंगित कराने का कोशिश किया.
So I have tried to indicate towards the Jeevan in the same way as I have understood it for myself. So as I have understood it, as I have understood the Jeevan, I have tried to explain to you as well.
इसके बावजूद आपको ये पूरे दस्तावेज के साथ आप लोग गुजरे ही हैं, आप लोग समझे भी होंगे, और इसके अलावा और कुछ यदि प्रश्न करना है और कोई शंका हो आप लोग सब पूछ सकते हैं.
So despite this, all of you have gone through this documentation and you have thought about it. If you have any sort of questions regarding it, I have anything to ask, you can now ask.
प्रश्न करना है और कोई शंका हो आप लोग सब पूछ सकते हैं. यहाँ उपस्थित सभी मेधावी हैं.
So all the intellectuals here, all of you, are free to ask or clarify any doubts or questions you may have.
Baba, पहले से प्रचलित जो परंपराएं हैं और उसमें फंसा हुआ जो एक सामान्य आदमी है, उसके बारे में आपका नजरिया क्या है?
So here he's asking, Baba, what is your perspective on the prevalent traditions that exist today and the human beings functioning or stuck within those traditions?
देखिए, इसमें दो शब्द आपने प्रयोग किया, परंपरा और सामान्य में.
So see, here you have used two terms, tradition and common man.
ये तो बहुत अच्छी एक लक्ष्मण रेखा का रूप में होता है. परंपरा के बारे में तो आप इंगित हो चुके, मैं परंपरा को कैसा समझा हूँ.
So these two function as a pretty good Lakshman Rekha, or like a boundary of limitation beyond which we will not go. So I have already indicated to you what I feel about the existing traditions.
4 भाग में प्रस्तुत किया है. वो है शिक्षा, वो है राजगद्दी, वो है धर्म गद्दी और चौथा गद्दी है व्यापार गद्दी.
That I have presented in the form or in the form of 4 categories. The tradition, basically saying the traditions that exist today, I've already talked about in under 4 categories, which are the education system, the seats of religion, seats of political power, and the seats of commerce, trade and commerce, which is business.
ये 4 गद्दी की बात है. इसी यही परंपरा का कर्णधार है, यही परंपरा का नौका है, यही परंपरा का रेलगाड़ी है, यही परंपरा का पूरा यार है.
So these are the 4 seats that I have already talked about. It is these 4 that are the carriers of tradition, that are the boats of tradition, the trains, railways of tradition, the
परंपरा का रेलगाड़ी है, यही परंपरा का पूरा यार है.
Or rather the entirety of the vehicle of traditions. So these 4 seats of education, politics, religion, and business are the vehicles for tradition. They carry tradition with them.
इसी में प्रकारांतर से हर व्यक्ति सफर करता है.
It is in these that all human beings travel in one way or the other.
सच्चाई.
And this is the truth.
इस सफर करते समय में मैंने जो देखा है, परंपराएं सब पूर्णतया झांझर हो चुके हैं, तो ये सफर करने वाले आदमी को कुछ दे नहीं पाते.
And while traveling in these, I have found that all of these traditions have become completely hollow, and so they are not able to provide anything to the traveler.
खाली का खाली रह जाते हैं.
They remain hollow.
किंतु ये चारों परंपराएं इस प्रकार की आश्वासनों की ढेर लगाते हैं, डिंग हाँकते हैं कि हम सब कुछ आपको तारने के लिए शुरू किए.
However, all 4 of these traditions make such high claims and assurances that we have started all of this all for your, that is the common man's, flourishing or overcoming, to help you cross over. So all of these seats of power, they say everything we are doing is all for you, to help you overcome the common man.
जबकि तरता हुआ एक आदमी देखा नहीं गया.
Whereas we don't see a single person overcoming their problems, their needs, their desires.
जो तारने के लिए कहता है वो भी उसी में डूबा हुआ ही दिखाई पड़ता है.
And the person who's making the claim to be able to help us overcome, we find that even that person themselves is drowned in the same problem.
इस ढंग से हमने देखा। इस आधार पर मैंने घोषणा किया है, मेरा घोषणा ये है, परंपराएं सड़ चुकी हैं।
This is how we can see the situation today. And on this basis, I have declared that our traditions are rotten. Have rotted, basically, rather.
निरर्थक हो चुके हैं।
They become meaningless.
चारों परंपराएं,
All four of these traditions.
और यदि सार्थकता की यदि स्रोत है मनुष्य को, मैंने ऐसा अध्ययन किया है, तो मनुष्य इतने सब झांझर होते हुए हर मनुष्य कम से कम 51% सटीक है।
And despite these having become hollow, as I have studied human beings, as I have seen human beings, despite all four of these traditions becoming hollow, we still find that humans today are 50%, 51% all right, 51% okay. So in each individual, he says 51% of us is still okay, despite being in completely rotten traditions.
51% सार्थक है, 51% से अधिक है सार्थक।
So 51% at least is meaningful within us. In fact, more than 51% is meaningful.
इसीलिए मनुष्य सुधर सकता है। परंपरा सुधरने की जगह में इसके स्थान पर दूसरे परंपरा ही स्थापित होगा।
Therefore, human beings can improve, whereas these traditions, instead of improving them, we will have to replace them with another tradition.
परंपरा को सुधारने की कोई काम नहीं है इसमें।
There is no work of improving the traditions over here.
सुधारने के लिए कोई वस्तु नहीं है।
There is no object to improve over here. He's saying they're completely hollow, completely rotten. There's nothing within these traditions to improve. It is the humans who can improve and replace the existing traditions.
परंपरा जैसा है उसके स्थान पर दूसरे तरीके की परंपरा ही शुरू होगा। यह सच्चाई है, चाहे सार्थक शिक्षा हो, असार्थक शिक्षा हो, शिक्षा परंपरा रहेगा ही।
So, as the tradition exists today, it will have to be replaced by a different kind of tradition, which is, for instance, whether there is meaningful education or meaningless education, there will always be an educational system. So we have to replace the meaningless education with the meaningful education.
जो सार्थक धर्म हो, असार्थक निरर्थक धर्म हो, धर्म परंपरा रहेगा ही।
Whether there is a meaningful religion or morality, or there is meaningless, non-meaningful religion and morality, there will always be a religious tradition. By religious tradition, it means a tradition of morality in terms of what we consider to be right and good and desirable versus undesirable, bad, or wrong.
और सार्थक राज्य हो, निरर्थक राज्य हो, राज्य परंपरा रहेगा ही। और जो वस्तु का आदान प्रदान हम तो व्यापार को विनिमय में देखा है।
So whether there is a meaningful state or a meaningless state, there will always be a state political situation, tradition. Similarly, whatever exchange of goods there has to happen.
जो वस्तु का आदान प्रदान हम तो व्यापार को विनिमय में देखा है, सार्थकता को, और वस्तु का आदान प्रदान होना ही है। उसको व्यापार से शिकंजे से निकाल करके विनिमय की रास्ते में लगाना है।
So an exchange of goods has to happen in any way, and that is what business also falls under. So we have to rescue this exchange of goods from the clause of business and take it towards actual exchange, towards trade. So there will always be trade, but as long as that trade is about business, which is about profiteering, that trade will be meaningless. Whereas when it is about actually exchanging goods of value, then it will be meaningful because humans will always be exchanging. Whereas when we actually have to do exchange for business, we end up exchanging absolutely worthless items. There are things for which there is no need that is felt in the individual. First, the businesses will put in a majority of their resources in creating the need inside the individuals using their advertising department, and then have you buy something that you didn't feel the need for to begin with. So that's meaningless exchange. You could have easily done without those things.
इस प्रकार से इसके स्थान पर दूसरा कुछ होने की काम की आवश्यकता परंपराओं को, परंपराएं सुधरने वाले नहीं है.
So in this way, we have to replace the existing meaningless traditions with a different kind of traditions. We will not be able to improve these existing meaningless traditions. We have to replace them with meaningful traditions.
कोई परंपरा सुधरता नहीं. सुधरने की उसमें वस्तु नहीं है. उसमें जो कुछ भी ताना बाना बनी हुई है मटेरियल से, वो मटेरियल से कोई मानव के लिए सुधार वस्तु बनती नहीं.
Because there is no objects within them to improve. The network that has been established within these systems with materials and systems, basically the methodology, the material, the network of the structure that has been developed all around these existing systems has no humanity. The whole bureaucratic system of governance, like completely redundant and useless. The whole, in fact, bureaucratic and formalistic system of education with our examination models and competitive models, they're completely useless structures for humane education. Similarly, the structures of our religious systems, such absurdities are involved within it that distract from actual morality and goodness, because a lot of focus has gone, and focus as well as systems have been dedicated towards a sort of relief mechanisms and group tribalistic mentality. That actual morality is rarely talked about. There's so much of ritualistic processes that take up all the time. There's no one really thinking about morality, or hardly at all. So in this way, he's saying our structures for all these traditions that we have set up are completely rotten. They have to be replaced. Those structures need to be replaced completely with the intent of having meaningful traditions in their place.
जैसा आपको उदाहरण के लिए बताऊं, जो जैसा राज्य का मूल तत्व है शासन.
For instance, like if I were to talk about one example, the basic element of the state is governance. Let's say that's what he's Shasan. He's saying, I wonder if he's talking about governance or rule.
ठीक है ना, संविधान,
which is the constitution.
संविधान का पूरा आशय इतना ही है, तो शक्ति केंद्रित शासन.
Now, the entire implication or intent within our constitution is simply this much, which is power-centric rule. If you look at our constitution, at the end of the day, it is power-centric rule.
शक्ति केंद्रित शासन का मतलब भी है गलती का गलती को रोको, गलती से गलती को रोको, और अपराध को अपराध से रोको, युद्ध को युद्ध से रोको.
This power-centric rule itself means basically that stop mistakes with other mistakes, stop crimes with other crimes, and stop wars with other wars. That is what our constitution boils down to, the existing one.
इसमें कौन सा आदमी को क्या होना है भाई? रोकने मात्र से कहाँ सुधार हुआ?
So in this, what happens to the human being then? Where have we improved anyone by stopping them?
जितना रोकते गए उतना ही अपराध बढ़ा ही.
As far as we have stopped them, we have also seen the parallel increase in crime.
ये तो आप लोगों के सामने रखा हुआ है. युद्ध को जितना युद्ध से रोकते रहे, युद्ध की व्यसन बढ़ता ही गया.
So that is something which is there, clearly present before us. However much we have tried to stop wars, this mania for wars has only increased.
घटता कभी नहीं है। तो इस विधि से दो युद्ध का व्यसन तो वहां पहुंच गया है, सारा धरती को नाश करें।
So in this way, this mania for war has reached this stage where we can destroy the entire planet with our war paraphernalia.
यहाँ पहुंच गए, ठीक हो गए। व्यापार का व्यसन तो छूटता ही नहीं शोषण से।
So this is where we have reached. All right. Then this mania for business as just never leaves our society today.
वो तो आपको पता ही है। तो
Something you already know.
तो इस ढंग से जो जहां तक धर्म का व्यसन है, सबको आश्वासन देना है और क्या कहते हैं, सम्मान पाना है।
Now, as far as the mania for religion exists, I think Vesan means mania, right? I'm not sure. So, as far as the mania for religion exists, it's all about keep giving assurances to everyone and garner their respect.
इस जगह में बढ़ा गया है।
That is where it has got stuck.
अब क्या किया जाए? आश्वासन क्या देना है? पापी को उतारूंगा, एक आश्वासन है।
What are the assurances? That I will, what's the word? Reform the criminal.
स्वार्थी को परमार्थी बनाएंगे, ये आश्वासन है।
Convert the selfish into the benevolent.
अज्ञानी को ज्ञानी बनाएंगे।
And will turn the fool into the wise. These are the three kinds of assurances that exist within religion. Reform the criminal, convert the selfish into the benevolent, and convert the fool into the wise.
ये आश्वासन है। अभी तक तो ना आपने कोई गवाही देखा, ना मैंने देखा।
But up till now, neither you have seen any testimony to this, nor have I.
अब कोई माता पिता देखे होंगे तो हमको बताते रहेंगे।
If any parent has seen such a testimony, they can tell me.
हम देखता रहूंगा, ये स्थिति रहेगी।
This has been the state.
इसीलिए परंपरा, मेरे नजरिया में परंपराएं सड़ चुके हैं, अच्छी तरह से खाद हो चुके हैं, इसमें कीड़ा पड़ चुका है, ये मानव सेवन योग्य नहीं रहा।
Therefore, in my perspective, in my understanding, these traditions have completely rotted. They have become hollow, and they no longer remain appropriate for human consumption.
मेरे नजरिया में परंपराएं सड़ चुके हैं, अच्छी तरह से खाद हो चुके हैं, इसमें कीड़ा पड़ चुका है, ये
you can see the increase in suffering in these.
मानव सेवन योग्य नहीं रहा, या मानव सेवन योग्य मेटीरियली उसके पास नहीं रहा।
So, or you could say that they no longer have any material in them for human consumption.
दो में एक रहा। हम आज तक भ्रमते ही रहे, मैं गलत हूँ। आदमी क्या सोचता रहा? हर आदमी ये सोचता रहा, अब मैं स्वयं गलत हूँ, परंपराएं सही।
This is a very important point. This whole while we have kept thinking, each individual keeps thinking, he remains under this delusion that I myself am wrong and these systems are fine. This is such an important point that he's raising.
ये मान के चलता रहा।
This is what each individual has been working with. Huh?
Can we take a break and we can start tomorrow?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, it's 6 past. All right. Let's start again tomorrow. Interesting point to be starting with.
Done.
Okay. Okay, then. Manjuji, anything before we leave? I think you're muted. Oh, you're muted again.
Now, who's the lady who's sitting there?
The lady towards the right in the sari.
Huh.
That is Archana Taiji. She lives in Kanpur.
Okay.
Why do you ask?
I see, I wanted to know who all are there and where is she these days and where are these people nowadays?
Right. She lives in the Kanpur center.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The man sitting to the right of Baba, he lives in the Achoti center.
Acha. And the one on the left of him, his right, I mean, from me it's left, but.
I don't recognize him actually. I'll have to ask someone.
Okay, never mind. Just ask if you knew. It's okay.
Yeah.
I feel so envious. They were there listening to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thanks to them, they also recorded that whole thing and we actually get the video.
Yeah, correct. Of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, Big. Bye bye.
Bye.